So, does the Jelly Evolv live up to the Jelly Epoch name? The Jelly Evolv is the modern version of the keyboard that changed the game. You know, PE phone thought it was all because of the Jelly Epoch. It has been ridiculously popular and they brought it back for a new revised run. Raffle only, 420 blaze it before shipping. Was this thing worth it? This video is not sponsored by QK or Owlstabs. I haven't worked with them in a while. Ever since I said the Link 65 wasn't worth the money, I thought they'd somehow send me an Evolv since I covered the Jelly Epoch so heavily, but it's all good. Getting production run units such as this gives me a different experience. This is from one of my patrons, Ricky. Thanks Ricky for sending it out. So this keyboard retains some of the aesthetic design of the original, such as this tab right here. It's like a little badge. Luckily they did remove the double nav up here. I really hated the two keys there after looking at it for a while. So this is a little cleaner. It still has a pretty wild out there design, so they are still very unique in the market. Not boring in the least bit. The side profile is cool and modern. Tons of holes where you can see through the keyboard, so that's really interesting. The air gaps are part of the appeal if you're into that. And this black tab here is part of the quick release system, so you don't need any screws. If you remember the original Jelly Epoch, the number of different screw sizes was super annoying. The RGB that was implemented was in the end ineffective. It just kind of heated up the brass weight. This modern design is much simpler. Just press the tabs and you can pop off the top case pretty easily. The RGB in the back is great to look at. Unfortunately, it's a little bit recessed, so the RGB spill on the table is pretty minimal. Same thing with the rear PVD weight. It's recessed into the keyboard, which is good because you won't have a lot of scratches on that fancy surface. Here's the odd thing. There's a tempered glass protector on there. We weren't sure if we were supposed to keep it on or not. If you keep it on, it has the ugly bubbling. If you take it off, well, it breaks. Oh god. As for another weird thing, the layout. Most renders of this board, it's using 6.25U spacebar. If you use a double blocker layout such as this, you have a Win keyless layout, but really, if you look, this is supposed to be Windows key, this Win key is supposed to be 1.5U, and that's not a common... It's not a common size in base GMK sets. Typically on 75% keyboards, when you do a 7U layout, it doesn't look great. If you remember the Satisfaction 75, the 7U shifted the spacebar to the left, and it really just took out 1U, and that was super weird. And that's due to the fact that those keyboards have offset arrows and exploded navigation. Here it doesn't have either, but double blockers, because you still have a Win key, is a very ambitious design. In the Notion page that they provide before the sale, it does have a layout diagram, but if you look closely, something's off. But before we get into that, a word from our sponsor, Factor 75. Are you looking for some calorie-conscious options as work gets busy coming into the fall? This September, check out Factor Meals to enjoy eating nutritious meals without the hassle. There are more than 30 options for flavor-packed, fresh and never frozen meals ready to eat in 2 minutes. No fuss, no mess. I've been one-wheeling a lot recently and I realized if I lose some weight, I can zoom faster on my wheelie thing. And takeout is expensive. Healthy takeout is even more expensive. And because I have so many hobbies, I do have less time to slow down and buy groceries, prep ingredients, cook my meals, and then clean up the dishes. Factor is the answer to all of that. I swear, every time I go out to eat a meal with my wife, it's like $40 minimum now. Prep meals are such a huge quality of life perk and a huge time saver. If this all sounds good to you, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code ANDV50 to get 50% off your first box. These meals have been a game changer and helped me keep on track with my strength goals as well. Once again, make sure you head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code ANDV50 to get 50% off your first box. Let's get back to the video. So back to the layout. This double blocker, I keep saying Win keyless because typically when you have two blockers, it's for Win keyless. This double blocker 7U layout is cursed. The blocker pushes the spacebar to the right, and just from that, it's going to be awkward if you hit spacebar with your left thumb, because the left thumb is now going to be resting on an edge all the time. Super uncomfortable. If you're a right spacer, it's not really a huge issue. The other thing is the layout. If you look at all the renders, they're using novelty keycaps, because the keycap required for this layout right here is supposed to be a 1.5U Win key. It's not common. Typically for a 7U spacebar layout, you have a 1.5U control, 1U super or code or Win key, and then 1.5U alt. And for 6.25U, you have 1.25U, 1.25U, 1.25U for control, Win key, and alt. Here, you actually need a 1.5U Win key, which typically that 1.5U Win key is only found in 40 skits. I'm using GMK white and black here, and it's the most standard of standard GMK sets, and it didn't have the right key. So basing your design off of this very specific layout is odd. I really don't like blockers when you still have all 3 keys. So it's Control, Win key, and then a skinny Alt. Ugh, it's frustrating. Some kits do have a 1.5U super or code. Apparently white on black kinda does, but most do not. Keep in mind that if you don't have a 40 skate for your set, you may not be able to use it. GMK is expensive AF, so I honestly mostly buy base kits only these days. There's a period where I bought a lot of spacebar kits because I really liked Alice layouts, but 40 kits were not very common, except one time where I had to buy a GMK Taro because the spacebar kit had a certain color of split spacebars and the 40s kit had the better color. So if you bought the double blocker board, you're going to be forced to buy 40s kit for your GMK sets. Maybe the other manufacturers have more large base kits, but as of right now, I can't even use white on black. The main point is the dual blocker layout is using an uncommon keycap. If you have novelties, great. You can use novelties and fill it in somehow, but if you don't, sorry. Really, I guess you could use your regular keycaps, but your layout's gonna look dumb because it's gonna be Control, Alt, and Code. Or you can just be totally silly with it and just do Alt like I did here. Enough ranting about the layout. It is what it is. You get your dual blockers, but it's pretty squished. In terms of sound, we stay true to the OG sound. PE foam, case foam, PCB foam, long pole Zakus. PC plates, we go hard in the paint for the thock. Alt, 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 Alt. It's a very straightforward sound that if you love, you love it. And honestly, the Zakus did not disappoint. To put on my nitpicky hat, the spacebar wasn't the best sounding. This long pole full foam should carry more, but I will say that it sounds fine. The Mr. Suit spacebar was a little off in every board that I've tried, and the GM Frog has a rough spacebar as well. This spacebar does a job. It's not inoffensive in any way. I just thought it would sound better with all the boost from the foam and the long pole. In terms of sounds, we don't have any weird sounds like in the tab key, or the Q key, or the right shift. With non-flex cut PCB that we're using in here, we have a decently loud keyboard. It still has a good amount of flex with the silicone gaskets that were pre-installed. Overall, pretty solid. But the people had to ask, so we pulled out the $130 Cycle 7 with MX blocks on aluminum, no foams to compare. And damn, it smokes the Jelly Evolv. No foams, regular pole switches, and it pops. So, at $420, was this keyboard worth it? Honestly, it's a nice revision that is the kind... Honestly, it's a nice revision, and I think the aesthetic is what the original Jelly should have been, but some of the design choices here are odd, such as the dual blockers, tempered glass, holes in the design, but it has a very striking look and is a statement piece of a 75% keyboard. If I'm going to use a 75, I definitely prefer to have arrows and navigation such as this, where it's not offset and not exploded. The QK series and the Neo 65 and Psycho keyboards on the market kind of make these more expensive boards less compelling. Ironically, the QK series comes from the same company. Although the original Jelly Epoch was kind of ugly, I do kind of miss the big brass weight and blockiness of it. This one is a little bit more futuristic. But the RGB on this board is way cooler. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.